Rachael. I am an addict in recovery, and I am the mother of a child who died of an overdose. Well, my story starts way back when I was very young. I was probably 7 years old, and I remember stealing cigarettes from my grandpa and my father, and they were Pall Malls with no filter. Terrible. But me and my cousins nonetheless would steal them and go smoke them, and we thought that was just the greatest pastime in the world to go do that. And then, we eventually graduated to stealing their alcohol, and that was peppermint peach schnapps, peppermint peach schnapps. It was some interesting stuff to get down. And I'm sure that most 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and so on don't probably find that to be a fun activity, but we did nonetheless, and I did. I felt that was just the greatest thing ever. It was our fun pastime. I kept on going from there. I continued to smoke here and there, smoke cigarettes here and there, even getting caught and getting in trouble. I still continued to do it. I continued to drink here and there. My dad had a lot of parties. He was in a biker gang, so his biker buddies thought it was cute to give me shots of whatever they were drinking, or some of their beer or some of whatever they had. And so here I am, this little princess running around in a tutu, and here they are giving me drinks, and thought it was funny that I'm getting tipsy. So that was my experience, and what it did for me is it desensitized me to the fact that it was, I thought it was normal. I thought this was a normal pastime, drinking and smoking cigarettes, and that lifestyle, that partying lifestyle, that was a normal thing. That's what you do, right? That's what fun is defined as. So as I grew up, as I started to become a teenager, that's what I did. I became, I started to drink, and eventually drugs, got introduced into the picture, and it didn't seem abnormal to me. It seemed pretty normal to me to do the drugs that were put in front of me, because that's what partying was. That's what fun was. Fun was drinking. It was drugs. It was whatever was at the party. That's how fun was defined, and it was all okay, because that's what I grew up doing and seeing. So, why not? So that was my teenage years, pretty much. It was all about going to parties and drinking and doing drugs and having that kind of fun. And I got in trouble, and I got, things would happen, but never did I relate the drinking or the drugs to the problems. It was never because of the drinking or the drugs. That never created the problem. The problem was always something else. It was an outside factor. It was somebody else did it. It was never the drinking or the drugs. Remember, to me, they were just fun. They were just the thing they were just the thing that brought the fun and the party to, life. They were not the problem. I had no idea what it was like to be an addict. I had no idea what an addict was. So that concept I had no idea about that. So again, that's what I did for my teenage years. When I was about 15, I left home from both my parents' house, and I went to live with my sister-in-law, and she allowed me to drink openly. I could drink I could drink with her. I could, it didn't matter, as long as I was home, it was okay. Now, by 15, believe it or not, I lived a pretty fast life. So by 15, I had gotten in a lot of trouble at home. So I thought that, again, it was just the other people. And so if I could just go somewhere new, I could start over, and all these problems that were here, I could get away from them, and I would start over and start fresh. So at 15, when I moved away, I thought, great, new start, everything is great. But the thing is, I took me with me. I took the partying concept with me. The drugs and alcohol came with me, because, again, they were not the problem. So I brought them with me. So I began to drink, I began to do drugs, and lo and behold, here came the same problems all over again. So I still couldn't figure it out. I still just thought, well, I don't know how these problems keep happening, but they keep happening. And it's not the drugs, it's not the alcohol, it's not me, it's something else. So I'm going to move again. So I moved back home to where my mom was, and I continued that lifestyle. By 17, I found myself pregnant. Now, Alexis she was the child that I always knew I wanted. It was as though I knew her before I ever even had her. So when I found out I was pregnant with her, life as I knew it was going to change for me. I decided that I was going to be that mother, that I was going to be the perfect mother. I was going to be the mother that she was going to need, and everything would be different. I was going to stop doing drugs. I was going to stop partying. I was going to be responsible. I was going to be everything she needed. And again, I didn't know what an addict was, so I just thought, I was choosing to do drugs, I was choosing to party, so I could choose not to do those things. Easy enough. That's what I thought. So I did for a while. I was the perfect little human incubator, and I did nothing but take care of myself. I did nothing but plan. I did nothing but get ready for her. And even after she was born, for the first few months, nothing but nurture, love, and have her. And when she was born, I felt a love that I had never felt in my life before. I felt a love that was both magical and terrifying all at once. It was a love that I knew that I had never felt it before. I knew that I would find great joy in it, but I also knew that I would find terrifying moments in it, because now there was a piece of my heart that would forever walk outside of my body in this little girl. And that was a moment. That was a moment for me. And so it became even more real that I needed to be this person for this little child, that I needed to be this mother, that, I needed to be just what she needed. So I needed to make sure I held it together and was everything that she was going to need, which meant, be sober, and again, I didn't know what that word meant at the time. I just knew it mean don't party, no more partying, no more drugs, no more of that lifestyle. So for the first couple of months, that's exactly what I did. And then when she was about 3 months old, my mom said, you've been with her for 3 months straight now. You've got to have a balance. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to also have some you time. So why don't you go out and have a little night, a little outing for yourself, and then, get a little you time. I'll take care of her. So I thought, okay, I could, all right. I didn't really have any friends, because the friends that I had were my partying buddies, and they didn't seem to stick around when I didn't party anymore, although I didn't quite realize that. I just didn't pay attention to that. So I got a hold of them, and I hung out with them for the night. And they were, you guessed it, partying. So I partied with them, and they were doing ecstasy, and I did some ecstasy. And for the first time ever, I didn't want to do that ecstasy. As soon as I swallowed it, I didn't want it. It was a weird feeling, though, because I never not wanted to do drugs. I always wanted to do them. When I did them, I wanted to do them. That was the whole point. But I didn't want to do them this time. It was like having this giant bully inside my head telling me all these things I didn't want to hear, like how I had failed my daughter. I had failed at being a mother. I had just let her down. I had just failed at all the promises I made. I wasn't able to keep the commitments. Like, what's happening right now? This once friend that I considered a friend, which was drugs, this thing that I once considered happy in the time that I would, good times that I would have with it, all of a sudden I wasn't having a good time anymore. And I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. But I knew that I had just made a huge mistake. But I didn't know what to do about it. So when I had to go home in the morning, I went home. And I was still nursing my daughter, so I had to nurse her. And then I freaked out because I felt like it, and I knew it was still, I figured it was still in my system, the drugs. And now I figured I had just hurt her, and now I needed to tell somebody. So I told my mom, who was a nurse at the time. So we stayed with my mom and stayed by my side, stayed by her side that whole day, so she could monitor Alexis. And I had never been more scared in my life. I had never felt more responsible for for the harm to somebody, or responsible for somebody, or I had just never felt more emotions at all than that day. And I realized for the first time that my sheer willpower to not party all of a sudden wasn't good enough. It wasn't enough. So for this little being that I had all this love for, more than anything else in my whole life, I loved nothing more than I loved her. I couldn't stop for her. I could not do drugs for her. How is this? What's happening right now? What's going on? So while staying with my mother, she went to one of her friend's house from church, and that friend was playing the radio, and Amazing Grace happened to come on, and for whatever reason that happened to touch my heart, and for whatever reason I knew that I needed a power, something greater than me, to help me to hold this commitment, to stay strong, to not do drugs, to find help, to figure this out for this child that I loved, for because that was all at the time. I still didn't know what it meant to be an addict. I still didn't know the deeper meaning. I still didn't know the bigger picture. I just knew the picture at hand. So for me, that's what it meant at that time. That was my spiritual awakening. So that was the beginning, and I, from that point on, was able to find that higher power enough to stay sober. At that time, I didn't know, I just knew it was stay away from drugs at that time and keep those commitments to Alexis. And I began to go to church, and I met my husband through that. I got a job at the church through a daycare. Years went by. I ended up getting an injury at church at this job, and my doctor ended up, now I had been off of drugs for, I think it was probably a couple years, probably 3 years, and that's a long time for me. So 3 years, and my doctor had put me on some pain pills for the back injury that I got at work. And I remember taking this pain pill, and I remember I was in agony. I was in so much pain at the time, and it was torture. I couldn't even move. I couldn't do anything. I remember taking this pain pill at the time, and I just thought, there's nothing. I mean, this is the worst pain in my entire life, well, except for having a baby, but, this came next. So I remember taking this little pill, and I remember swallowing, and I remember thinking, this is not going to do it. This is terrible. This pain is awful. And within a few minutes, oh my gosh, the pain is gone. But not only is the pain gone, this, feeling like I'm floating, like this warm, fuzzy feeling all over my body happened. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I found it. I found the high legitimately. I mean, my doctor gave these to me. They're okay. They're safe. They're right. I mean, this is socially acceptable. And again, my doctor gave them to me. So surely they're okay. And I can feel high again. I can feel that euphoric feeling again that I used to feel when I did drugs, but I couldn't feel it anymore because I made a commitment not to do those drugs anymore. But now I can feel it. And I remember just getting so thrilled about that. Just feeling like, this is it. I have found it. This is it for me now. This is great. I can be the mom I want to be again. I can be everything. and I can have my cake and eat it too, because I can feel that feeling that I couldn't feel anymore because I made a commitment not to do drugs, but I can do it in a safe way because they're safe, because my doctor gave them to me. So they're safe. Well, what my doctor didn't tell me is that at the level that he had put me on, which was the maximum level at the maximum amount a day, after a while, my body would build a tolerance to them. I would not get the same, my pain level would not respond the same way to them. I would have to take more, and also still didn't know what an addict was yet. So I still didn't know my personality, and my personality is more, more, more. So I was going to want more. I just didn't know that yet. So for a few years, it seemed to be okay. Although trouble would hit, my husband and I would end up splitting up, and I would end up in an abusive relationship, and I would end up eventually on way more of those pain pills than I would need. And eventually it would, to the point where it would be at 40 a day. I would have my son. I would be taking them. I was on them when I had my son. I was under doctor's care, but I was still on them. I was eventually, like I said, I was on 40 a day of them, but I wasn't on them because it was just pain. I would take them when I was stressed. I would take them when I was angry. I would take them when I was sad. I would take them when I was feeling overwhelmed, because all those feelings meant pain. Oh, I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling pain. Like everything related to pain, every emotion related to pain, everything related to pain. Therefore, I needed to take a pain pill, because everything, that's what you do when you're in pain. You take a pain pill, and every emotion meant pain. So therefore, everything equaled a pain pill. Eventually, I began to realize that without these little pills, I couldn't function at all. It was miserable. It was unbearable. I was sick on the couch. I couldn't move. I was puking. Everything was coming out of everywhere. It was horrible. I literally couldn't survive without them. And I thought, this can't be real. Doctors are stopping giving them to me. They're not listening to me when I'm telling them I'm running out early and I need them, and I don't know why they're not giving them to me. They gave them to me to begin with. Why are they not giving them to me? If I tell them I'm this sick, surely they got to give them to me. Like, they gave them to me to begin with, so why are they not giving them to me? I didn't understand why they didn't understand, so I thought, surely this can't be it. This cannot be living. This cannot be real. This cannot be what I am going to be like when I'm not on these things, and this can't be what life is now. So I decided to seek out some help to get off them, because I thought somebody told me that I was only feeling this way because I was taking so many, and that if I got off them, I wouldn't feel this way anymore. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a try. Nobody told me I was an addict. Nobody told me I needed help yet. Nobody told me anything about that. They just said I was taking too many. So, okay. So I went to a detox and I got off them. I also left the abusive relationship. I packed up both my kids. My mom was living here in Owego by then, from Rochester to here. So I packed up my kids and I came here. I remained off the pain pills for, I'd say, about 5 years. Again, the detox I went to, very little information. Didn't tell me about rehab, didn't tell me about recovery, didn't tell me about addiction. They were a Suboxone detox, so I was put on that, and I realized that all these people there kept trying to like trade each other for Suboxone and get each other Suboxone from them. And I thought, well, why the hell are they doing that? And they said, you know, they were getting high from it. And I thought, well, I don't want to be on this Suboxone. I came here to get off everything. But the detox wouldn't let me do that. So I had to be on it, the medicine, in order to be there. So I said, well, I don't want to be there anymore. So I wasn't there very long. But it was long enough to get off the pain medicine. So I was off it, didn't know anything about addiction, didn't know anything about meetings, didn't know anything about any of it. Just knew I was off the pain medicine, I'm good. So I came home. I had to go back on pain pills. And I thought, well, I've been off them this long, so I'm going to be good. It's not going to be a problem because, again, I did not know about addiction. I didn't know about any of that, so I just thought I'll be fine. So I went back on them, and wow, did not know, did not understand how in the world did this beast come back so quick, because it was a beast to me. Taking 40 a day and trying to live without them or live on that many was a beast of a kind I didn't even want to live through again. So I couldn't understand, how did that happen again? How did I go from being put on them and being off them for about 5 years and go get on them again, and within days I am already taking more than I'm supposed to. I'm already taking them when I don't need, when it's not about pain. What is happening? Again, I don't know. I think, well, toughen up, Rachel. You just need to handle this. You just need to handle it. Don't just stop it. Take them right. So I tried on my own. And then I wake up one night and my son sits up in bed next to me. I wake up and I smell something. It smells funny. It's really hot in the house. And I hear this noise. It's really dark in my house too, and I can't figure that out. And something isn't right, but I can't figure it out. My son sits up next to me. He was in bed with me. He was younger. And I can't see him anymore once he sits up. I can only see his legs. And then all of a sudden it occurs to me, oh my God, I think my house is on fire. So I go and I try to like crawl towards my door, my bedroom door. Can't, it's too hot now. It's way too hot once I get that close. So I shut my bedroom door. My daughter happened to be in the same room, so I grabbed her. I grabbed my son. I tied 2 bed sheets together, threw my window open, and lowered them out of the 2nd story window with a bed sheet. And then I jumped, and my house exploded, and that was the end of 30 years worth of stuff, 30 years worth of memories, 30 years worth of life gone up in flames. But my kids and me, we're out, we're safe, we've got that. So we ended up rebuilding again in a new house. But, you know, it was a traumatizing event. And a friend of mine said, you know, here, I want to help you through this emotional time. I want to, you know, be there to support you. And I know you're going through a rough time. I actually, you know, was waiting for doctors to refill everything because you lose everything, which means your meds, which means my pain pills. You know, I don't have those. So I'm kind of going through it a little. I'm in pain a little. I've got a lot to deal with. Again, emotionally, I'm all over the place, and it's a nice time when I want to take one. So I'm trying to cope with everything, but it's a little bit tough. So she says, let me help you out. You know, let me help you out with some of that. So she ends up giving me some heroin. Well, I've never done that before. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I'm petrified about it, but I also am not feeling good at all because you get kind of sick from not having your medicine. So I let her go ahead and give it to me, and I try it, and it was really intense, and I didn't really care for it. But, you know, and I thought, well, I'm never doing that again. Like, that's just a bottom. That's a low that I'm never going to go to again. You know, I'll stick to my pain pills. So for a few more years, that's what I did. I stuck to my pain pills. I used them like I shouldn't have. I abused them all over again. Couldn't believe that I did that. But, you know, again, every time I hit a bottom, I said, well, okay, but I'm not ever going to, you know, I'm never going to be on 40 a day again. You know, I'm never going to doctor shop again. I'm never going to use 50 million pharmacies again. And every time I hit a new low, a new bottom, I said, well, I'll never do that again. You know, I'll never go there again. I'm never going to be sick on a couch where I can't function again. I'm never going to put my kids through that again. And then eventually I got introduced to pills that were stronger than pain pills. They were stronger than the Percocets that I was taking. And now people were doing them differently. I was just swallowing them and snorting them, and now people had these new pills, and these new pills were being taken in a different way, in a stronger way. They were being felt a better way, and everybody was telling me about it. And I decided to go ahead and give it a try because it was getting harder to get my pain pills. So I gave it a try, and I really did like it. I had to take fewer. I didn't have to worry about running out. So I gave that a try. Eventually, pills got harder to find. They got harder to come across. They were more expensive. I couldn't afford it. And I didn't want to feel sick when I didn't have them. So here came this this drug again, coming across my path again, this heroin. Here you go. Here comes a friend again. Hey, I have something. It's cheaper. It's easier to get. You know, you don't have to worry about having it hard to find. It's right there. So here I go again. I thought, well, you know, I got pretty sick from it the first time, but maybe I'll try it a different way, or maybe I'll try less of it, or maybe I'll try it this way, or maybe I'll try it that way. I can do it differently. So I gave it a try, and I liked it this time. So heroin became my new drug of choice. And with heroin, my bottoms became lower and lower and faster. I lowered them faster and faster. I said that I would never, first I said I would never do heroin, and I did. Then I said I would never use needles, and then I did. And then I said, well, I would never share needles, and then I did. And then I said my kids would never know what's happening. And I thought they never did, but they did. And I said I would never let things fall apart in my life, but they did. I never thought I would do some of the things that I did. I found it easier and easier to lower my bottom once I started using heroin. It was whether it was the way that I used heroin, using needles, whether it was how much I needed it and what I would do to get it, whether it was the lack of parenting or the lack of being there for my kids, or whatever it was, those bottoms got lower and lower, and it was so much easier to be able to achieve the lower bottoms and to justify and rationalize those lower bottoms once I started using heroin. For some reason, pills seemed socially to me acceptable because my doctor would write them. I didn't have that rationalization with heroin. I couldn't say my doctor gave it to me, so it was okay. But I could say, as long as I looked good, I looked all right on the outside, my hair was done, my makeup was done, I had my apartment, I had the roof over my head, I had my kids with me, then I was okay. I was doing all right. But I couldn't really say that for long because Alexis went to live in a group home because of her behavior or because of mine. I guess, you know, how much contradiction can you live with? Do as I say and not as I do was my motto as a parent at that time. So, you know, and Javon, well, he had a whole ton of behavioral issues. But again, I did a lot of rationalization and a lot of justification. And I kept saying, well, sure, there's cracks in the foundation and there's things that are going on, but I'm still doing all right. I still have a roof over my head. I still have my kids, you know, they're still everything's all right. You know, even though CPS is knocking at the door all the time and I'm got a, you know, eviction notice from my landlord and my parents are telling me I'm going to lose my kids and my family's cutting me off and I so clearly don't have it together, but I still think I got it together. Many problems, but I got it together. I'm handling it. I'm managing it. I have power over this drug. I have power over what's going on in my life. And I really couldn't understand what everybody's problem was because, first of all, I'm the one doing the drugs. The drugs are being put in my body, so I don't know why everybody's so upset anyways. But again, I didn't understand what an addiction was. I didn't understand what addiction does to the people that love you, to the people around you, to your life, and to everything in its path. I only understood me, and I only understood my self-centered, selfish point of view at that time. And then, let's see. Once I got cut off once my family began to cut me off, once CPS was banging on the door, once once life started to catch up to me, and I started to get in some trouble for the things that I was doing, and I lowered my bottom lower and lower and lower, and then the law caught up with me, and I was put in jail for a month. And I was given a choice to go from bed to bed, which is basically jail bed to rehab bed. And I fought that, but, you know, it was either several years in jail or bed to bed. And I thought, all right, bed to bed sounds all right then. We'll give that a try. Again, very caught up in my own world. But the month that I spent in jail, I realized that I wasn't actually holding everything together. Life wasn't as manageable as I thought it was. I didn't have power over what I thought I had power over. And I was trying to micromanage life from this jail cell, and I couldn't do that. I wasn't able to, that wasn't working for me. And I couldn't understand why. And I couldn't understand if I was holding everything together, why did I lose my apartment? Why did I lose my kids? Why did I lose my freedom? Why everything in one swoop? I couldn't understand that. Still, I didn't know I had a problem yet. I just thought, again, this is life outside of me that's the problem, not me and the drugs that's the problem. And it was maybe my management skills that was a problem. And when I couldn't micromanage outside of jail, when I couldn't micromanage everything outside of me, I got very frustrated. And I remember sitting in jail, and then when I was a kid, I used to think, if I had one superpower, what would it be? So I was sitting in this jail cell. I was really bored, and I remember thinking that, playing that game in my head. And I thought, well, okay, if I had one superpower, what would it be? Well, I'd be invisible. I could sneak out of this jail cell, and I could go get high, and I could sneak back in, and nobody would ever even know that I had did that. Now, mind you, I had already sat through a week of hell in that jail cell of being dope sick, which is what we called it, where your stomach is sick, you're vomiting, you're going through hot and cold flashes, your skin's crawling, you're just miserable. So I had already went through a week of that, and it was not fun. And I was feeling better now. So all I wanted to do was sneak out of jail, go get high, and sneak back in? Damn it. I might have a problem. And it might be drugs. So some people have this great epiphany moment, this aha moment, you know, with butterflies and rainbows. I didn't have that. But I had this moment where I realized, oh my God, I have a problem. And my problem is drugs. My problem is an addiction. My problem is that no matter how hard I've tried over my life, when things that are seriously important to me, that matter to me more than life itself, like Alexis or like Javon, and now like my freedom, I can't put these drugs down. I need help. So when I got the opportunity to go to rehab from jail, that's what I did. And I listened, and I absorbed, and I took everything in. Because from that desperation in that jail cell at that moment, I turned that into a drive to be sober now, a drive to figure this out and to figure out how to live again, and to figure out what was my problem, what was going on with me, and how to now how to live again. And I learned I was an addict. And I learned that my disease of addiction wants more. It wants more, and I cannot ever, never touch a drug or a drink if I want to live. And if I never touch a drug or a drink, I'm promised to live. So for the last almost 5 years, since August 14th of 2013, I have not touched a drink or a drug, and my life has gotten so much better, and I've lived, and things have been given back to me. And that's because I learned that I was an addict and I learned how to live again.